Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be giving some weapon ideas for the upcoming Succubus game because I have nothing better to do. They already have a few different weapon ideas, so I tried to follow the same general aesthetic and theme as those ones and try to think of ones that would provide some interesting variation in gameplay. So let's begin. The first weapon I thought of was some sort of bone lance. Most of the weaponry in combat in the concept trailer seems to be very close quarters. She has these knives, she has her ripping apart onoskelises and shooting fireballs at people. So I think something that gives her a little bit more distance between herself and the opponent might be a nice change of pace. The general idea is that she would be jabbing her opponents with the pointy end of it, and while that would again give her some space between her and her attacker, would also kind of limit her maneuverability because she would have all that space between her and the opponent she can't utilize for moving around, and she could very easily get backed into a corner. And of course, if an opponent manages to get past the pointy end of the javelin here, then it's not going to be very useful as a weapon. Another weapon idea was sort of a heart grenade, and the way it works is if there's a bunch of enemies around, like 3 or 4 of them, and they're all swinging at you, you can throw the heart at them or on the ground in front of them, and it would coat them in blood, and some of it will get into their eyes and sort of daze them. They'll be still while they're trying to get the blood out of their eyes, and you can maybe take down 1 or 2 of them before they finally clear their vision and go after you again. I was thinking of doing this idea with the babies, like they're so full of guts and blood that when you slam them on the ground they explode, but I couldn't quite figure out how that would look. I tried my best, I really did, and sticking with the theme of weapon ideas that might harm or debilitate opponents but not necessarily kill them, I thought it'd be interesting if there's like this rock covered with this infectious bile that you stab into an opponent and it causes the opponent to take damage over time rather than instantly kill them. This seems like another thing that might be useful for multiple opponents, or perhaps like a really powerful opponent that you can sort of whittle away at their damage while focusing more on dodging than attacking, and that means that when you do get to attack, you'll be that much closer to defeating them. Given that a lot of agony hell is fleshscapes, it would make some sense if some of it was like diseased and infectious, and that was used to make the stones or whatever. Whoever would make it could be the Succubus, or it could be another tool made by the humans. But I think it would be pretty interesting if there was an area in hell that was really infected and really hazardous to walk through because of it. Now, moving away from weapons, I also thought a little bit about what sort of armor the Succubus could wear. I thought it'd be interesting if there's this top of a skull she can put on her head to help protect herself, and there'd be these engravings in it, sort of like the engraved skulls from Tibet, which are pretty nifty and have some nice craftsmanship. So this seems like something that maybe one of the people would wear and she takes it from, or is a relic to be found in hell. And just these different engravings of some of the creatures you can find in hell, or imagery related to hell. And the last one isn't a weapon or an outfit, but I was thinking a little bit more about what I mentioned in my first video about Succubus, the one where I suggested gameplay improvements and things to look out for when designing the game mechanics. And I remember talking about how it was interesting that the humans were sort of banding together and trying to rebuild themselves and trying to establish a little bit of a primitive civilization in hell. And I think it'd be interesting if that was explored a bit more. And one idea I have is like, there's this human standing on top of a pillar that's surrounded by a hole with spikes on the bottom, and the hole could be like covered up with leaves or whatever. And the human will basically be there making a ton of noise trying to attract everything he can. And the reason this works is because the onoskelises, and the spiders for that matter, are blind. So they won't be able to see the spikes or the pit, but they'll know there's a human making noise, and they'll rush toward it only to be killed by the spikes. And that could be how the humans harvest different body parts from the demons, or at least a few of the demons. And he'd probably have a spear in case there's a demon that comes along that doesn't quite die correctly. So yeah, these were just some dumb little ideas I came up with because I was bored and had nothing better to do. So I hope you enjoyed the video that gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.